And on, also on, you play a kind of a cocky kid on there, and I guess Eric on Gossip Girl is kind of also pretty much to some extent cocky kid.
I think Eric is. I think Eric is self-assured in a way that, despite the fact that because of the things that have happened to him throughout the show, you'd say maybe he wouldn't be the character that kind of has his stuff together, but he does. And I think because he's dealt with feeling unconnected to the world that his family grew up in, and not had many friends, and the one close friend he does have being Jenny, not being connected to that world either, I think that's given him a much more concrete sense of who he is than the other characters who feel like they have to be something, whereas Eric grew up feeling that he wasn't anyway. So he I think, has found more of a center.
And now, I mean, where I'm going with this, not only is this your biggest role, Stakeland, I mean, you pretty much carry the film, you're in every shot, but it's a completely different character for you.
Absolutely.
You're vulnerable, you're innocent, you've got this, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where you're going, and Mister is your mentor, and you've got to be subservient to him to some extent. Was that enjoyable for you to get out of that kind of jerk role that you had played?
Absolutely, 100%. Because Winning Season, which is a film that I did with James C. Strauss, 2009, I played douchebag, cocky jock.
Exactly, yeah.
And look, having variations in the roles you play is just what you should live for as an actor. And Martin is completely different. I was saying earlier in an interview that Martin shuts up. He is the one character I played that does not talk. There are maybe, for a character that is in every shot of that film, there are maybe 10 to 15 lines of dialogue, if that. It might be less. I should go through it one day and see how many times I actually speak.
Yeah.
Because if you get rid of the voiceover, Martin doesn't talk.
Right.
And playing a character that just listens and just takes in the world around him is pretty exceptional.
A lot of it is also with when you've got these long takes without dialogue, the facial expressions, the eyes, the gestures can say more than the words in the script.
That was a big thing for me and Nick, who plays Mr. About these are two guys that have spent every day together for the last 2 years. We don't really know how long they've been on the road together before you meet them, but we assumed it was anywhere between a year and 2 years. You spend every day living with this person. Pretty soon, your small talk is going to go out the window. And as we say very quickly in the film, Mr. will not tell you anything about where he comes from, nor does he want to hear where you come from. So you take out character's history, and you're spending all your time with this one person, you have nothing to say. So eventually you're just going to get to a point where you communicate purely with looks, and that comes down to, in the middle of a fight or in the middle of what we do, we need to know what he needs from me just by meeting eyes, and that's the type of relationship we try to work out.
Now, we talked to Nick earlier, and certainly I don't want to embarrass you, but he had some wonderful things to say about the chemistry between you two. But tell me how you ended up shooting arrows at it.
Shooting arrows at Nick. I don't know if I shot them at Nick.
He remembers you shooting arrows.
Well, Nick, of the many weapons we have in the film, Nick made most of them. I think actually the stunt weapons we had were just copies of the molds that he had made. One of these weapons was a full longbow that Nick made in his kitchen. I think he Googled how to make a bow and did it. We had a vampire. It was a dummy tied to the tree where we were camping out, and we would just shoot arrows at it all the time. So he taught me how to shoot, which is not easy.
He told me a couple times he had to jump out of the way.
Yeah, I was not the best shot right off the bat, and Nick is pretty cavalier about a lot of things, so he'd be pretty close to the dummy or pretty close to things, and I let a couple things fly. He did roundhouse me in the face one day during training, so that was probably a comeback from the many arrows shot at him.
You did have a lot to do here, and certainly, actions that you hadn't done in previous films. You had to learn a lot for this role.
Absolutely.
What were your biggest challenges, do you think?
I think for me was I had never done a horror film. Camp Hope, which is now being called Camp Hell, is a thriller. And
What's up with that?
I don't know. I know Lionsgate has it, and I think they're just trying to find when to drop it. But that has demonic possession, that has all types of things, but it's not a horror film. And I think saying that you're going to be in a genre film, unless you've done it, this has given me so much respect that are in this line of work. Is trying to create an honest performance with such fantastical elements all around.
Without being overshadowed by them.
And just going, okay, I'm living in a world where we have vampires, and I'm going to give you a real reaction to a vampire, is very difficult. And to really go, okay, now how am I going to show people I just saw my whole family get slaughtered, and now I have to go fight this thing that killed my family? You know, that's not something that you can draw on from sense memory. That's not something that you can really psych yourself up for. And if you really want to make that honest, you have to believe it to a certain extent, and that's not easy.
A lot of these films, the thing is that the visuals and special effects, that's what the people see. That's your character, and the actors are sort of peripheral. And for this film to work, you've got to be sympathetic.
Absolutely.
People have to
gotta care. Absolutely, and I love that, because it's so sad when you see a film where all the elements work and it's greatly directed, greatly acted, and then you just go, I don't really give a shit.
Exactly.
God, it's so important to have a cast of characters that you don't want to see them get hurt, and it's instrumental in a horror film. It's paramount because they're all probably going to get hurt and die because it's a horror film. So you have to care that they're going down. Because otherwise you won't be afraid and you won't be upset. And I've seen people sniffling at the end of this film, and that's great because it means people
they do.
watch it.
You're every mother's son. You're every guy's best friend. Everybody sees something in you, and I think, and I don't know if that weighed on you during the shoot.
I think any weight that I had, Nick appropriately took on himself, and I really Our relationship got me through that shooting process because, number one, Martin doesn't have an option to be weak, so I didn't either. And anything that he feels that he's coming, Mr. and Nick is shouldering so much more. It's a little bit the film. If you watch the movie, there are a couple scenes where we're all camping out, and where Mr. doesn't sleep. Mr. never goes to sleep. And that's the character he was playing, and that's the type of actor he was. It's just, even if we were all exhausted, he was still going to be the one keeping watch.
Well, he's in a Western.
Exactly. And so, no, I never felt undue pressure, because I always felt like I had people there shouldering the burden with me, and I was just so happy to be there.
Now, obviously the question, the elephant in the room, is TV versus movies, as far as your career is concerned.
I prefer film. That's me, because I like the ability to disappear into a role and to just sequester myself from the world for a period of time. And you don't have that option with television, only because you have to go home. And you don't have to go home when you're filming. You get to leave it when you're done and just go, that was that time. But television, you're carrying it with you all the time. And you mentioned Mercy, and that was just a guest spot for a show. But I was playing a kid that had killed 15 people because he had religious visions and nut stuff, but I still felt like crap the entire time I was making that episode, just because I was playing a kid that felt like shit.
Well, I'll tell you, the two Law and Order episodes, people talk about them.
Those were not fun to do either, because when I played Teddy, the most recent one, I needed to shower every time I got back from set, and on a film set you can do that and you can just be awful that whole time and then just put it behind you.
Right.
You can't do that with TV, and just
they show it
exactly
all the time.
Exactly, and film is just there's something that just raises my flag. I think more than anything else. It's just kind of where
that's great.
Where I go.
That's good for the audience, because I think nothing against television, but I think this is where you belong.
It's where I'd like to belong.
So, do you have anything else on tap?
We'll see. There's always, it's a pretty hectic time in the industry right now. A lot of films kind of get the ball rolling, and then unfortunately it is stopped for financial reasons or whatever. So a lot of things kind of do this stutter start thing. But we'll see. We're midway into season 4 now, and there's some heavy stuff for me this year. So we'll see how it works out.
Well, good luck with that, and good luck with Steakland. I know it's coming out in theaters sometime next year, and I hope people get to see it, because you do a great job in it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.